Spotlight in Bensenville. I'm Joan Ritter, Village Trustee, and tonight we're going to be talking about avoiding scams and fraud. And with us we have Detective Sergeant Brian Dooley from the Bensenville Police Department. Thanks for joining us, Sergeant Dooley.
Thanks for having me. Good afternoon.
So before we get into the details of the scams and frauds, why don't you give us a little bit of background on yourself?
Absolutely. My name is Brian Dooley. I'm the Detective Sergeant with the Bensenville Police Department. I've been with the department for 14 years. Worked in the patrol division, detective division, and then now the supervisor of the detective division. I've been doing that for about 9 years now.
Okay. 14 years, huh?
Yes.
Long time.
Right, right.
Glad to have you with us.
Well, thank you.
So why don't you give us an idea of what some of the scams are that you've been seeing in Bensenville?
Okay. Bensenville, even though we're relatively a small town, we're still affected by all the same scams that the rest of the towns, the rest of the country is experiencing. And almost every scam out there, unfortunately, somebody in Bensenville seems to have fallen for. Some of the more common ones that still happen are, the term we use is ruse entry residential burglary, where some sort of scam is involved for the person to find their way into the person's house. They all have slight variations and different cons involved, but the bottom line is either getting that person that answers the door out of the house, typically to the backyard, to the side yard, and again, the ruse could be they work for some sort of utility department and need to go look at a tree in their backyard. They work for a neighbor and need to discuss property line issues. Anything to get that person out of the house, because typically that person will not lock the door behind them. Then the bad guy has an accomplice that will then go in the unlocked front door and ransack the house quickly for jewelry or money. The other part of that scam is, since they are typically just looking for jewelry or money, they leave the house relatively untouched, and a lot of times the victim doesn't even know they were victimized until hours, days, weeks later, till they're specifically looking for jewelry or money, and it's even hard to pinpoint when it may have happened.
So somebody could be at their home, there's a knock to their door, and somebody says, I'm with the electric company and we need to look at the lines in the backyard, and I'd like you to show me where you see your lines coming
Absolutely.
into the backyard.
They'll even have the hard hat, the reflective vests, clipboard, walkie-talkies, and incidentally these walkie-talkies, they're actually just communicating with their partner to say, I still have the person in the backyard. Some sort of code so that they know. But it does initially look the part, and most people are believing that the person coming to the door are saying who they say they are.
Who would you say are the common victims that would have this ruse entry happen to them?
Statistically, those scams it's typically the senior citizens for two reasons. One, they're more likely to have the cash and the jewelry in their house than younger people that use banks more frequently. And secondly, they're targeted by these people because of potentially diminished vision or hearing, the ability to recognize people, remember people, and they're from a more trusting generation that aren't, doubtful of people.
Right.
They don't suspect it's a scam. They think it's legitimate.
What are some signs that our residents / senior citizens could be looking for to see those people to be able to notify the police?
If in that part it would be tricky. In that part they can't really prevent it from happening. They can't disguise the fact that their house is their house, or they can't prevent themselves from being seen. So really the prevention would come when that knock or that doorbell ring comes at the front door, and that would be, I don't want people to be very untrusting, but in this day and age you almost have to be, especially when it's someone at your house and you're going to let them on your property and you're going to leave your front door unattended, or they're going to attempt to enter your house. Anyone that truly is coming to your house, whether it's somebody from a water department, a village, a utility company, first of all, they're not going to be offended that anyone challenges their credentials, asks to see their credentials. And they'll have more than the hard hat and reflective vest. There will be some sort of name tag, ID, and paperwork specific to their house, why they're there that day,
Okay.
unsolicited, without a phone call warning them. And lastly, a phone call to any of those companies should verify that. Call comment. You should have a bill for any of these utility companies that are there, or call to them to verify that there is a work person there at the house. Failing that, call the police department.
Okay.
The one thing I do want to get out there, and maybe we'll probably talk about it more on other scams, we want people out there to never hesitate to call the police. It's never a burden. It's never a hindrance to us. We would rather respond, do a quick preliminary investigation there, and if it's bona fide, great. Then the people are comfortable and secure. We've identified the person. They can go on with their job. And if it's not, we've identified a potential criminal. Even if we prevented the crime from happening, we've identified them and they're likely responsible for crimes in other towns. We'll get the information out to other towns and we may have solved the crime for another town. But more importantly, we've prevented the one there. So it's never a bother to us to be called out there 24/7 to just help the person and help verify it, who this person is.
Okay, so we talked about the one that you say would be most common. One of the other ones that we said that we wanted to talk about was the unsolicited scams. Can you give us some breakdown on what those would be?
Yeah, so, and these are, again, by unsolicited we mean the victim, the potential victim, didn't really do anything. They're getting the knock at the door, they're getting an email, they're getting a letter in the mail, a phone call, something that they didn't request or they didn't initiate on their own. All of those can be initially suspicious or the suspect by the victim because they didn't ask for anything. So the obvious one is the lottery check in the mail that they never submitted to any lottery, they just get this check in the mail. Just the old adage is if it's too good to be true, it probably is. And in a lot of these scams, that's the reality of it. We like to say there's three main motivators why victims will fall for some of these scams: hope, fear, and greed. Greed, unfortunately, is the lotto ticket or any kind of special. Anything with money involved where you're given money up front and all you're asked to do is take a portion of that and mail it back to somebody or wire it to somebody. Ultimately, if you're receiving any kind of check in the mail that you did not ask for or enter into, and there's some money owed back to some company, most likely that check that you received is going to ultimately wind up to be a forged check. And the way they get around it now is the reality is the check number, the account number at the bottom, is probably a realistic check number. The offenders have stolen that account number from somebody else, so when their victim brings that check to the bank, it'll actually initially pass some sort of fraud check, fraud screening, because it's a legitimate account number.
Okay.
It will only be when that check is passed to the first bank, to the owner's bank, to that owner that denies the check, that the check is found out to be forged, and now a week or two have gone by.
And by that time, the person, the victim, has already paid out a fee to cash
fee
the
or
check
whatever,
or
correct. And then
the
all that money they
percentage.
think is in their account will soon be withdrawn by the bank that put
Got
it there
it.
in the first place, so they are out that money.
Okay.
So there's greed. Fear is kind of the same thing. Some of the, the greed would be the people that just, again, the too good to be true probably is. Fear would be some sort of thing in the mail or letter or email threatening some sort of cancellation of any utilities. A fake ComEd email, a fake water email, that money is owed right away, or all
Even your
services
email
will be
address.
canceled.
I've seen those where I've gotten a fake email that said your email address is going to be canceled if you don't go onto this website and pay your bill back up, knowing my bill's paid already.
Exactly.
And if people do that and they pay another $20 or $100 or whatever.
And it is that fear. That's again,
So it's not fear of life, it's just fear of loss of something.
Something, right.
Okay.
A business owner in town, and I won't say the business or anything, but it was the same thing. They got a phone call from somebody purporting to be from ComEd. We're going to cut your power at noon today unless you pay immediately. Even the person feeling, I think I'm up to date, why would this be happening? The risk of a business that's about to make money that day having their power cut off and losing that business, they fall victim to that fear, and okay, I'll pay you whatever. I need $300 now to keep it going, and again, the same steps would have prevented that. The same.
A quick phone call to the
to ComEd,
ComEd
pull
or
your own
whatever,
bill
right.
out, look it up. It's, why are you guys calling me? I'm not overdue, and then we didn't call you. You're not overdue.
Okay. All right, well, in this half of the show, we've covered what you've considered unsolicited calls. We're going to take a short commercial break, and then when we come back, we can talk about the solicited scams that are happening out there.
Great.
So please stay with us, and we'll be back after a short commercial break.
Hi, I'm Village President Frank Soto. Many residents have contacted Village Hall, our administrators, and our Public Works Director, Joseph Karachi, regarding questions and concerns about the grade cross separation at Irving Park Road and York Road. The video is intended to show you some of the timelines that are involved. But once this project is complete, it is an incredible benefit for the residents of Bensenville. It will alleviate the delays that are caused by the intersection and also will improve overall traffic flow and accessibility to Irving Park Road through Bensenville.
The York and Irving Park intersection is one of the most congested intersections in all of the Chicagoland area. We are working diligently with the Illinois Department of Transportation to try to correct this problem. Working with IDOT, we have come up with a $64 million project to try to improve businesses and our residents' flow of traffic through the area. As I mentioned, 2012 was the completion of the first bridge. We're looking at 2014 being the completion of the second bridge. After that, we'll have an intersection improvement project for the entire intersection with wider lanes, wider cross sections, safer traffic movements. This is all part of a plan that hopefully will start on the intersection improvements in 2014 with a completion sometime in the early to mid part of 2015. We are looking at this project as being a major impact on our businesses, on our traffic flow, and on the village of Bensenville in general. If you have any questions, please feel free to call the Public Works Department at 630-350-3435. Thank you.
The Water's Edge Aquatic Center is conveniently located in the Redmond Recreational Complex in Bensenville. The Water's Edge is home of Fenton High School and Wahoo swim teams, featuring an indoor 8-lane lap pool and diving well. The Aquatic Center is available for private functions and parties. Learn to swim, stay in shape, or enjoy recreational swimming year-round at the Water's Edge Aquatic Center.
The Bensenville Community Library, serving a community of readers. Whether you're old or young, a lover of words, music, or computers, the library has something for you. Check out our new Kindles, toddler jams, story and movie nights, or a variety of other activities offered. For more information, call us at 630-766-4642 or check out our schedule on the web at benlib.org. The Bensenville Community Library, celebrating 50 years of library service.
One of Chicagoland's premier ice skating facilities, The Edge is home to the Chicago Steel and Robert Morris Eagles, featuring 3 sheets of NHL regulation size ice, offering skate programs for hockey players, figure skaters, and recreational skaters of all ages. The Edge is also available for private functions and parties accommodating from 10 to 200. Whether you're a novice or an Olympian, experience the spectacular Edge Ice Arena.
Staying connected is important, and at the Village of Bensenville, it has never been easier to keep up to date with what's happening in our community. On your phone, PDA, PC, laptop, or tablet, the Village of Bensenville website offers easy integration, so you'll stay connected at home, in the office, or on the road. To follow us on Facebook, simply go to the Bensenville homepage and click on the Facebook icon in the lower left-hand corner. This will take you to the Bensenville Facebook fan page. Once there, click the like button to add us to your newsfeed and receive regular updates from around town. To follow us on Twitter, simply go to the Bensenville homepage and click on the Twitter icon in the lower left-hand corner. This will take you to the Bensenville Twitter page. Once there, click the follow button to add us to your Twitter feed and receive regular community updates. To receive email and cell phone notifications, click on the Notify Me button. This will take you to the Notify Me dashboard. Once there, simply add your email address and/or cell phone number at the top of the page, and then select which service you would like to receive updates from. The most common update section is in the Newsflash Bensenville News. Click on the envelope icon for email alerts and on the phone icon for phone alerts. You can choose one, the other, or both. To watch our public access cable show or board meetings, simply click on the Bensenville Web TV button on the lower left sidebar menu of the homepage. This will take you to our streaming center, where you can play current and past Bensenville cable TV shows and board meetings. To pay your Bensenville utility bill online, just click the Online Payments button and then follow the instructions provided on our secure payment site. If you have any problem, concern, or question to tell the village, then click on the Bensenville Action Hotline button. This will take you to the Action Line dashboard, where you can explain your issue and receive a response within 48 hours once you have clicked the Submit button at the bottom of the page. Staying connected is important. And at the Village of Bensenville, it has never been easier to keep up to date with what's happening in our community. On your phone, PDA, PC, laptop, or tablet, the Village of Bensenville website offers easy integration, so you'll stay connected wherever you are.
Welcome back to Spotlight on Bensenville. Again, I'm Joelle Ritter, Village Trustee, and tonight we're talking about avoiding scams and fraud in Bensenville. And helping us do that is Detective Sergeant Brian Dooley from our Bensenville Police Department. Thanks again for joining us tonight, Sergeant.
Thank you for having me.
So previously in the first half of the show, we talked about some of the prevalent scams that you said are unsolicited scams, meaning that our residents out there didn't do anything to have somebody make a phone call. But now you're saying that there's something new and different in scams, and those are solicited scams. Can you define that for us and
Yes.
tell us a little bit more about that?
What I mean by that is, in the past, the scams were starting to get a little easier to recognize because they were unsolicited. Anyone that received an email, a piece of mail, a check in the mail, a phone call that they didn't initiate on their own was a little bit more obvious that it was a scam. But now we're starting to notice that the bad guys have seized on other opportunities out there where victims and potential victims unwittingly are the ones putting information out there. A lot of it will stem around putting ads on the internet, Craigslist, eBay, things like that, for either selling items or renting items. That opens the door for potential offenders or con men, because now it gives them a legitimate reason to
So our
respond
con
to
men
that
are getting
ad.
smarter out there.
Exactly, they're adapting to the times.
Okay.
For example, one that has, again, struck in Bensenville and area towns, if somebody puts an apartment for rent online, same thing, they'll get somebody calling saying, oh, I'm very interested, but I'm out of state, I won't even be able to look at it, but by the pictures and by this and that, I know I'll love it. I'm sending you the first and second month's rent check now, please hold it and take it off. Inevitably, so again, you don't see what the potential scam could be, but inevitably the second part of the scam is either, and this is what happened in town, oops, I wrote that check for too much, can you wire me the difference or write me a check for the difference?
Oh, okay.
Or I'm having the moving company meet me there, or the moving company may actually beat me there, so I wrote the check for more than the amount, can you cash it and pay him the difference directly? And then again, inevitably that check is just a scam, and the moving company is one of his buddies, and so he's getting, the money was paid to the moving company via mail or email, so nobody was even probably in Illinois at the time that received all this money, and now this person, again, that check will later be found to be forged, and now our potential landlord is out the money from
Gotcha.
a fake check.
Wow. They are getting smart out there, aren't they?
Right.
So some of the same questions that we asked in the first half of the show pertain to these scams as well. So number one would be, what kind of people are you seeing that are affected by these scams?
And that is where it did change. This is where, because of anyone of any demographic or age range are using the internet or are putting things out there.
Probably less seniors.
Probably,
and,
exactly.
And
younger generation using technology
Correct.
more. So it covers the entire spectrum. There really isn't any specific victim group or target group. In reality, since our offenders most times are out of the country, truthfully, with these types of scams, they don't actually know who they're dealing with. They just see the ad for something for sale or for rent, so they don't even know who they're dealing with, but then they start the process. And the other thing, too, is with the offenders that are doing this are typically probably reaching out to 50 people a day, and if they get one to bite on the scam, they've made their money for the day. So it's a fishing expedition on their end.
Right, okay. So what can people do to avoid these type of scams?
It's some of it's the same. If again, with these online things, you don't really know who you're dealing with, so it'll be harder to be suspect of anyone. It really will come down to that money in hand and just having to wait. Some of the sites, such as eBay, those are a little bit more secure. And if not secure, even if a fraud does happen, at least eBay will be responsible for it and they'll reimburse the people. It's some of these other ones that are just person to person, just an open forum. There's no real security or no.
You don't have a
follow-up
company
after.
that's
gonna
helping
back
do
you.
some background checks and stuff like
Exactly,
that
yeah.
on the sellers and the purchasers.
So those, it'll be a little bit more on the victim or potential victim to just verify the funds, and it'll come to them, because a lot of times at the end of the day, the banks are the ones that eat the loss because they will reimburse some of their clients. So some of the responsibility is back on the bank. So if you do go to your bank with a check that looks suspect and explain the situation, then they'll take a little bit harder of a look at the check, or they'll hold the funds for the week or two that it takes, or they'll expedite that process to verify that that account number, that business, that person truly did write that check while the person is holding the property, or before they write that second check back to
Back to them,
offender.
make sure that that's cleared. Are there other ways for people to find out about these scams? Is there like a website to go to, or is there a list of scams available anywhere for people to look up?
There is one website I want to tell people about, and again, the police would tell residents this. What it is, it's the FBI along with some other federal agencies, because they realize there's so much information out there, and it's the likelihood of following a lot of these leads down were slim. They at least formed a task force, so to speak, with a website that collects all the information, and so that they ask that the victims go to it. And what it does, even though that I just said all these emails and phone numbers and names are realistically fictitious, it still at least categorizes them all and collates them all, so that in the event that there's a certain number of crimes occurred by the same email address, the same phone number, the FBI will then open up a case and start to look into it. And with all these different cases, there might be a better chance of finding out some of those people. So that website, it's www.ic3.gov. It's the letters I, C, and 3. The IC is for internet crime, and the 3 is because there's 3 federal agencies that form that.
If there's new or emerging scams that come up and these agencies are aware of that, do they contact the police departments, the local police departments, to let them know that they're seeing these new ones emerge?
If typically there's some training, there's some seminars that we go to. That,
Okay.
It's not necessarily a phone call to the police department or things like that, but there's about a monthly training that it's usually detectives go to, and that's where, if we didn't already learn about it from our victims, unfortunately, that's where we can learn about it, and again, hope to then get the word out to.
So, and the
to other
reason I
people.
bring that up is because we were talking earlier about the fact that calling the police department is always one of your best options. If
Absolutely.
you are nervous, what are the 3 things you mentioned
It
before?
was hope, fear, and greed. And
Okay.
like I said, the fear is your utilities are going to shut off. The greed is you thought you got some free money. Hope is that's the people that think they met their true love on the internet and ultimately forward them a lot of
Something like
money
that.
before they
So
ever meet
if
the person.
there's any inkling of any of those, a simple phone call to the police department, who's here to support you. That's why we have a police department. It's not just to be there for accidents, it's also to support our residents for a myriad of reasons. And a simple phone call to the police department may alleviate that happening to you, that making you be a victim. And it would also help neighbors, correct?
Correct. Exactly, because again, you would hope that we would already know the information about this scam, but since the bad guys seem to always be one step ahead, if we learn about the scam from a resident that unfortunately either fell victim to it or hopefully was about to, and they thought something was suspicious and called us, We'll then learn about it. We'll pass it on to other towns. We'll pass it on to the residents, and hopefully nip that scam in the bud before it gets out there.
And before it affects any other residents.
right.
So whether you have fallen victim to a scam or a fraud, or you feel that there's a possibility that one is trying to be perpetrated onto you, the suggestion is that you call our police department. Let them help you. It's a simple phone call. They'll either tell you over the phone what to do, or if they feel it's necessary, they will send a policeman out to, or a detective out to your home to work with you, to work through it, and take care of everything that you need. That's what our police department is here for. So, that being said, thank you very much for joining us this evening, Sergeant.
Again, thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you again next week on Spotlight on Bensenville. Have a great night.